Projects under the 2012 bond are winding down ahead of schedule, but that doesn't mean the city is done paying for these new facilities.
CBS 4 This Morning anchor Alyssa Meisner breaks down the numbers and explains how the city plans to pay for these projects long term.
That's the sound of progress. New libraries, parks, even water parks going up in El Paso. It's been 8 years, and the 2012 Quality of Life Bond projects are ahead of schedule, bringing new and upgraded facilities to the Sun City.
It's quality of life for the city. I mean, if we invite people, the first thing they're going to look for in El Paso is what do we have to do there in El Paso.
Voters like Jaime voted to pass the bond and are already enjoying San Jacinto Plaza, neighborhood parks, and the DigiWall outside El Paso's History Museum.
And those are just simply amenities, things to bring families to parks, to attract people from out of town. The wet pads, my kids love them, quite frankly, and so on sunny days they do like to go out and enjoy them.
This summer, the city will unveil 4 new water parks, along with rec centers at Alameda, Loma Land, and the Chamizal.
It's very important. It's very important for El Paso. We're a growing city, it's the safest city. We just need to be there in front of the spotlight and welcome people.
But these new facilities come at a cost. The bond covered construction, but in 2020, the city's looking at about $7 million in operating costs.
And really understanding and managing the expectations. Anything that we do is going to cost money. Anything that we operate is going to cost money.
City engineer Sam Rodriguez says he's trying to find creative ways to cover those costs without having to pass the burden to taxpayers.
When you think of like the water parks as a great example, you know, right now we're figuring a recovery cost of 60%. So how do we close that gap? You know, you close that gap through naming rights, through sponsorship opportunities, and you know, our team is working very hard to try to sell that.
The city also cut a deal with a private company to help cover the cost of running the Children's Museum.
The private sector is going to be contributing 2/3 of the operating cost for the Children's Museum. That's huge, and that's an annual savings moving forward. So that's a very favorable deal that the city was able to strike.
Beyond sponsorships and private partners, El Paso leaders are also looking to piggyback off city utilities and local school districts.
One of our projects in the quality of life was the Thomas Manor. Through the NIP program, we knew that El Paso Water was going to do a project, and we partnered up with them. We were able to leverage our dollars to take that project a little bit further.
Rodriguez says he can't promise these will cover all operating costs, but the city doesn't plan to ask taxpayers to foot the entire operations bill.
Inevitably, we're still the backstop for the cost because the community is expecting us to run it and to run it well. And part of that is looking for revenue opportunities moving forward.
But it will come down to how city representatives choose to allocate dollars in the budget. El Pasoans we talked to say raising taxes is not an option they can get behind.
Quality of life is good and it's important, but you have to live within budgets. And I know that one of the main places that they get their taxes right now is from property taxes. If they keep going up, people are going to leave. I mean, you know, you go where money treats you the best.
Others told us they would be willing to pay a little more in taxes or even pay a fee to use the new facilities.
I personally wouldn't mind paying a small fee for me to go with my children. I have smaller children, so I would pay that if it was somewhat reasonable, somewhat minimal. I think others might bark about that, however.
Entrance fees are certainly something to look at. I mean, that way the people who want to use them pay for them.
Rodriguez says he's not just focused on what it costs to run the facilities, but also how the projects fit into the larger vision for the future of the Sun City.
It's a big puzzle. You know, it's not just as simple as saying you got to operate, you got to figure out where you're going to pay for it. There's a much bigger picture and much bigger goals that the community has, and this is going to contribute towards that.
A goal for a bigger, better, and more profitable city. For CBS 4, I'm Alyssa Meisner.